Hello, everyone, and welcome to our day early comics review video. I'm Jason.
I'm Andy.
And we're with infinityfluxcomics out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, where every Monday after the comics have been delivered to our shop and we're done bagging and boarding them, Andy divide them up, and I divide them up.
Just me.
Not just you. I get to choose mine as well. We pick out the ones that we are most anxious to read, the ones that we think most people want to hear about. We read them and we do this spoiler light review show. And so we're going to tell you sort of collectible reasons you might want these books, but more than that, we're going to tell you what they're about, especially the issue number one. Mm-hmm. So there's always 20 to 40 new comics out every single week, and we're going to tell you enough about them that when you go in your comic store, you're going to be armed with the information of which ones most call to you. So we have our first few we're going to go over right out here. We're going to show the variants. We're going to show the incentive comics. I'm going over 12 books. Andy's going over 12 books. So we'll have gone over 24 books by the end of this show. So buckle up and enjoy. Before we get going, though, got to plug the website, infinityflux.net, where people are able to order comics and even buy the ones we're going to go over today. You can have a free subscription where you can subscribe to books. You can also subscribe just to particular covers. You get 10% off any of your pre-orders. So again, that is infinityflux.net, our website. And you are able to, as of this week, buy the books we're talking about while they're in stock. All right, so Andy, what are we starting with?
I can't wait to be talking about it, and then someone runs and goes, "We're sold out! We're sold out!"
Stop the presses.
Yeah. So I'm starting with not a number one, but a number two. But I feel like this series is such a flagship book right now for DC. You got to talk about it. This is Superman number 2, part of the new Dawn of DC initiative, written by Joshua Williamson, and this issue continues to be fantastic from the first one. So I know a lot of people were kind of hesitant, but reluctantly picked up Superman, being like, it's a new number one, I'm going to try it out. And I know a lot of people came back, subscribed to it, were very excited about it. I'm very excited that we have a Superman book kind of leading the pack for DC. So this one continues our story of the parasite menace that's been going on in Metropolis. It's not one big version of Parasite that Superman's usually facing. It's a bunch of tiny versions who have spread out throughout the city and are draining all the power out of Metropolis. That is kind of your A story going on here that is a lot of fun. You've got Superman trying to figure out what to do about this. He has Lex Luthor talking to him the whole time, not through a headset, but just talking because he knows Superman can hear him, which is really fun. But I think the key thing that happens in this is as the city is dark from the parasites absorbing the light, Superman runs into this new character here. Now, Superman's kind of running low on energy because it's dark, it's night, he doesn't have the sun, and he's been drained from the parasites. That is when our new character named Marilyn Moonlight shows up. You can see her on the cover.
She's on a bunch of the variants, too.
Bunch of the variants. Really cool character. Now, I feel like so often we see a new character, especially a character that kind of is dark like this, when we automatically assume, oh, this is a new villain. That's not necessarily the case. This could be a new hero or new anti-hero, because she kind of helps Superman, but with a warning of like, hey, I'm in town now. So just,
the gall of somebody warning Superman about anything.
So she does have some cool, very like moonlight centered powers. You'll have to read it to find out. But she may give Superman a little energy boost, not from sunlight, but from moonlight. How does that affect him? You're going to have to see. But also, what happens? What does Superman see when she uses her powers? She may actually be something from the past of Metropolis. You see how she kind of has a little bit of a cowboy aesthetic with a horse and everything. This could call back to something in Metropolis past that Superman's going to have to uncover. overall, this was a really fun book. I just touched on some of the big parts. There's a ton of kind of sub stories going on with a league of mad scientists, Bizarro, ton of fun stuff going on. But I cannot recommend this highly enough. You've got Jamal Campbell killing it on art. Josh Williamson doing a great job. If you didn't pick up the first one, I suggest pick up the first one, pick up the second one. I think you're really going to like this. We've also got some great variants for this. Starting with, we have this John Boy Myers cover. And I believe this is a wraparound.
Nice.
Superman versus Darkseid. Very cool. We've got this Gabriel Rodriguez cover with Superman facing off a big version of Parasite. This one probably had the most variants of the week for my stuff. We have the Tony Daniel, kind of an homage cover to that classic Neil Adams chain-breaking cover.
Yep, absolutely.
We've got
DC book having more variants than Marvel books.
I know. We've got
This
a
one's nice.
Zerdy variant with your new character there, Marilyn Moonlight.
Probably my favorite up-and-coming newer cover artist.
Yes, very cool. We also have this Jamal Campbell concept art. Usually these are incentives. This one's actually an open order, so you can get the really cool concept art, especially her hat. The kind of negative space between her mask and the underside of her hat is really cool.
That makes me happy. It's open order.
Yeah.
All the best covers should be open order. Let everybody have them.
And then finally, we have this Lopez 1 in 25 variant that we are selling to our customers for $15 while supplies last.
Okay, so there are several anthology comics out this week, and somehow or another, they all ended up in my pile. So to begin with, it is Women of Marvel, the one-shot all about the Women of Marvel, written by a lot of female creators. This is a double-size anthology issue. I believe it is $5.99. There are 5 different stories in it. With the first story is sort of told throughout it. It has to do with She-Hulk. And she's doing a court case where somebody's trying to prosecute the other female heroes for certain reasons. And so basically she's telling the story through these cases, which is pretty cool. You'll have to see who is the evil attorney, who's the evil person trying to prosecute them. You'll learn that by the end. That has a little bit of humor, but a little bit of seriousness as well. Then there is a story with Silk hanging out with Black Cat.
You
don't really see that very often. So they're hanging out together. They go up against Mysterio, and they're also out on a night of the town, for a night on the town. So they're doing some karaoke as well. A little bit lighthearted, but cool to see those two together. There's less of a story, but there's like a 2-page spread of Janet Van Dyne where it's one of those you could cut her out and put different outfits on her, and
like
it shows all
doll.
of her different outfits throughout time. Yeah, so that's a really fun spread that they have in this. There's a story with America Chavez and Kate Bishop, which also guest stars Miles Morales and Starling. And lastly, there's a Ms. Marvel and Photon story. So just another one of the first anthologies I'll tell you about today. Here are the variants for it. Here is the Howl variant with Elsa Bloodstone. And here is the Savage variant.
Very classy.
Yep. Dressed to the nines, the A-Force.
Yeah. Formal A-Force. Okay, next up for me is a new book from Image, Dead Romans. This one's interesting, and I feel like this is kind of one of the books why we do the show. But you look at it, and you've got a lot of questions. You kind of get the idea of, okay, Romans, this kind of historical. This is written by Fred Kennedy, and the art is by Nick Marinkovich. And this is what I could most attribute it to is almost like the HBO show Rome. This is not... aliens invade during Roman times, or
this is historical fiction.
This is historical fiction, and very I don't know, muddy boots on the ground type storytelling. The art reflects that quite a bit. I would almost say it's a little bit more clear version of something like Department of Truth. It's still kind of scratchy, a little bit more defined figures, but it definitely leans in towards like the indie comic feel of this. So this is about a former queen of Syria who has been taken as a slave in the Roman Empire, but she has a secret love affair with one of the Romans, and he vows to free her, even though she's owned by another Roman. And what happens when maybe there's some betrayal within this group of Romans? They're kind of ratted out to some like kind of barbarians, and she goes missing. And what will the Roman do? And he left her with his sword, which is an interesting, she's going to have her adventure, he's going to have his adventure, but all set in pretty realistic, in quotes, Roman era Germania type story. So very cool, especially if you want something different from a superhero or a sci-fi or anything. We don't get too many pretty straightforward historical comics, and this definitely kind of scratches that itch of a mature historical drama. So this cover is by the interior artist, so you can get a little bit of the style there. This is Marinkovic. We also have this variant. This is the Gorham variant. Still very, very similar to the art style on the inside. And then we have this Marinkovic variant as well. A very Nordic Viking character on there.
See, I let you get that one because I felt like you were really interested in it when we went over it comics in the future. But I was too. I want to check it out later because it takes me back to reading Age of Bronze.
Yep.
Which, a good comic, you don't need superpowers. I mean, historical times. I love history. I love other cultures and older cultures, ancient cultures.
I feel like we haven't got one of those in a while. We had book like Northlanders, Age of Bronze. There's a book called 3 that takes place during Rome. But it's been a while since we have that. So I hope this kind of ushers in a couple more historical dramas.
Yeah. Okay, so my second book is the next anthology book, this one from DC. It is DC's Legion of Bloom. Now, this is one, if you didn't know it was coming out, you'd see it on the shelf and be like, what world is this? Why is it? Well, I think today is the appropriate day to talk about it, because today is the first day of spring.
Oh,
and this is
what if they time that?
In honor of spring. Yeah, I don't know, with comics always being delayed and such, if they did that, congratulations, whoever pulled that off. So this is another anthology by a lot of different writers and artists. A lot of them are not like your typical names at DC also. It seems like they were letting some newer people kind of cut their teeth, see who can do what. I'm just going to tell you what the stories are about. Okay, so there's 8 of them. That's a lot to remember, so I took some notes here. So this is $9.99 because it is 8 stories, so we're talking like quadruple size. This is a big issue. So the first story, Poison Ivy works at a store and she's in disguise. And I say disguise because, I mean, it's clearly her. She just has glasses on. It's like Superman style. And, things can never go right for Ivy. She's such a sad character. She always wants what's best for the planet, but, there's always messed up things going on. There's a story with Batman and Woodrow, as Batman investigates a person who has gruesomely turned into a plant.
Ooh.
Yeah. There's a Blue Beetle story where he goes up against Florida Man from the headlines, not from the indie Florida Man comic. There is a Titans West story by Kavan Scott. That was pretty good. There's a team-up story where Flash needs the help of Swamp Thing. So you'll have to read that to see why would Flash need Swamp Thing in particular, but that's sort of the whole premise of it.
He's got to plant his garden really fast, and he needs some tips.
Speaking of gardens, Captain Carrot has a story where his infant son gets some of the cosmic carrot mixed up in his formula and has to try to stop him.
That should be the lead story. That's great.
And then there's a Wonder Woman and Siegfried story where they go up against Jack Frost. Wonder Woman is always going up against gods and semi-gods. And of course, Jack Frost is trying to mess up spring. So a story to warm you up, because I don't know where all you are watching from. It's pretty cold here in Chattanooga right now. And lastly, there is a Superman story as well. Sort of shows like a year in the life of Superman and what spring means to him. Just renewal, rebirth, all that. So that's a little quick summary of what 8 stories are about in there and what characters you'll see. Here is the very awesome Derek Chew variant. So if your store carries this like we do, you might want to grab this variant instead of the A cover.
I don't know if there can be a bad Poison Ivy cover. It's just, she's such a good
Artists
character.
are just lined up to do her. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have to say, it wasn't until you read the title right then that I realized it was a play off of Legion of Doom. I don't know why that just slipped past me for months knowing this book was coming out. Okay, next up, I want to talk about Amazing Spider-Man number 22. Very wicked looking cover there.
Creepy.
Very creepy. So
I'll eat your mask. It's like,
and
what?
then your face. Yeah. So this is continuing the What Did Peter Do storyline. And I feel like this one, out of all of them so far, has given us the most answers. It's not given us all the answers, but this does. In the previous issue, we saw that something happened. A villain returned to New York that had some ties to Peter and Mary Jane. And we saw that there was a villain that kind of marked both of them for sacrifice. And it was kind of a lot of mystery set up to what does this mean? Who is this person? So we get a flashback in this one to when Peter and MJ were stuck in this kind of nightmare version of New York where there's dragons and fire and stuff. But we do find out where and when Mary Jane met who would become her new husband.
Everyone's favorite new character.
People loving this character. But I feel like it's good to finally be like, how is this working? Like everyone said, there hasn't been enough time in between for her to break up with Peter, find a new man, get married, because it's only been a year and have kids.
Some
calling
time
her mom.
Travel or time dilation has to
so
be
we may start getting the first hints of what happened with that side of the story. We still don't know everything of what Peter did, but I feel like we're seeing the lead up moments to what initially kicked off the series of him sitting in the crater. We may actually see what caused that crater, but if you are still wondering about what all's going on with Amazing Spider-Man, I say definitely pick up this issue to get 25% of your answers, maybe.
Another large piece of the puzzle.
A large piece of the puzzle that a lot of us have been waiting a long time for. So this is our A cover from Ramita Jr., who does your interiors as well. We have your Caselli variant. This is one of those Marvel Icons variants. I really like these. And we have this 1 in 25 Bachalo variant that we are selling to our customers.
Okay, so I read the new Boom title, The Neighbors, issue number 1. Okay, so this is written by Jude Ellison S. Doyle, with art by Letizia Catanici. And the first thing I want to talk about is the art from this. I thought the art was really good. It's very moody art and coloring. This is a suspense horror thriller book where these two people in sort of a non-traditional relationship and family have moved to this new neighborhood, and there's something sinister going on.
No way.
As the reader, there's some sort of prelude to this where you get the idea that maybe like this demonic thing appeared and was buried near their property. They meet sort of this old woman crone type of harbinger who you could just tell is sinister, but really within their own family, they have problems going on. So it makes me wonder if a lot of the internal family struggles aren't being shown in this outward thing. Like, I don't think that's all it is. I do think that the outward stuff is its own life, but there may be some parallelism in the storytelling. That was the part that was sort of the hardest, though, because this is definitely just a regular issue number 1, as far as it's not double sized. So it's a lot of questions that are unanswered. It's a lot of setup where it's like, oh man, I kind of need a second issue to really tell, is this for me or not? But I think the art is going to answer that for everyone. I think if you pick it up, the art, it might connect with you, and the atmosphere is going to make you go, okay, I want to get that issue number 2 and see where this story is going. So I just wanted to say that about the story. They didn't fast roll it out. It's being slow rolled out, where you're going to have to buckle in if you really see where it goes. So that is what's going on. My book is haunted with The Neighbors number 1. Here are the variants. Here is the Kristen Tina variant. Definitely Garden of Eden, Evil Snake. Here is the Perez variant. There is definitely a tree in their yard where maybe that demon thing was buried in the past. And then there is a 1 in 10 Mercado Virgin variant of the main cover. We're selling for $10.
Cool. So next up for me is our next Batman One Bad Day issue. I'm not sure how many more of these we have, or if this is the last.
I mean, there couldn't be many more.
I don't think there's many more. But if this is the last, they went out with a bang, because this is Batman One Bad Day, Ra's al Ghul,
or Roz.
I believe both pronunciations are correct, except when people correct me, because I always said Ra's al Ghul. But I gotta say, going into this is written by Tom Taylor, and the art is done by Ivan Reis, who I already have like an emotional connection to, because when I really started reading comics was during Blackest Night. He was the artist of Blackest Night, and the art in this is incredible. Like, it's one of those of like, oh, I need to get back to reading the story, but I'm just looking at this page because it is so pretty and interesting and dynamic. So highest praise for the art in this one. But also the story, I feel like Ra's al Ghul stories can go either way. Sometimes I can find them a little, he's not a quote unquote super villain. Like, he's not flashy. He's not a Joker or a Clayface or something. He's a man. And sometimes the stories are very grounded, and sometimes he's got very elaborate plans. This is a nice kind of, let's take every different kind of version of Ra's al Ghul and put it in one, because he can also be a very sympathetic character, because he's seen a lot, and we see a lot of his backstory in this of when he was a kid, and kind of, I think he says in this, he's been alive for 700 years. So he's seen things change. And so he's kind of got a different perspective on life than a lot of people. He walks that line of like, is he a villain, or does he know better about some things than your average person does? A lot of this idea of legacy in the future and being able to kind of understand the past in the future is what works into this. But the kind of main story, the kind of the surface story is Ra's al Ghul's going around and killing kind of like billionaires and influential people that he sees as wrongdoing. And Batman is going to try to stop him, even though he's not sure it's him. Ra's is really good about hiding his tracks. But of course, Batman, we get a lot of detective Batman in here, which I love. You get the Bat sub in this with Batman in his scuba suit that still has ears on it, which is great. But it's Batman and Damian being like, well, I mean, they're not, he's like, it's not a terrible thing that they died. Like, they're not great people. And Batman's like, this is our job. Like, these people were murdered. And this is, we are investigating it to stop this crime. It's a very interesting thing because you do have Damian in it. Ra's al Ghul's his grandfather. What does that mean? This is chock full of great character moments and surprises along the way. That this is up there in this series as I've had a few favorite issues. I actually really like the Bane issue.
Yeah,
It was just a very unique story. This one is right up there, might be at the top for the art and the writing and really making you think about Ra's al Ghul as a character and is he a bad guy or does he just have a different perspective? He does very bad things in this, but he is a very complex character. Tom Taylor does a great job exploring that. Ivan Rice does a great job showing that emotion, and the Batman parts in this are just incredible. So, very high praise for Batman One Bad Day, Ra's al Ghul, number 1,
Roz.
Ross.
No,
How did they say it in Batman the Animated Series? Didn't they say Ra's al Ghul in the animated series? I feel like the whole race thing didn't come about till not too many years ago.
Right. I think you're right.
We have this really nice Jim Lee cover. Very action-packed. And we have this 1 in 25 Sienkiewicz variant that we're selling to our customers for $25.
Okay, so Doctor Strange has a new number 1 because he is back to life with a really cool Alex Ross cover on it. This is written by the same writer as the Death of Doctor Strange event and the last series, Strange. It is Jed MacKay. It's pretty much a continuation right from Strange. Strange followed Clea as she sought to bring her love back to life, and she did. And if you haven't read that series, I would read it. It was a good series. Pick it up, in trade form, or go to your local store, look through the back issues. So Doctor Strange is back, and what's interesting in this number 1 issue, there's a lot you could do with the number 1. Usually they want to hit the ground running by having a new villain, having a new... This doesn't go that way. Instead, Doctor Strange is back to life, and he's like, I've been dead for a while. I need to go visit all my friends, everyone I used to know, or still know, and see what's going on with them. So it has a cast of other heroes who he visits for a page or two to just see what's going on with them. He visits Spider-Man. He visits Luke Cage, who of course is now the mayor. He's Mayor Cage. He visits Black Cat for a little bit because she was kind of handling some of the stuff he left Spider-Man when Spider-Man was in the hospital. He visits Daredevil. He even visits Doctor Doom, and that's one of the best parts because Doom, of course, showed up when he was dead.
That's like in issue 1 or 2 of Strange.
He's demanding the mantle of Sorcerer Supreme. Him and Clea really knocked heads, and Clea is still in this. I mean, in fact, things are going well for Doctor Strange. He's back to life. He's back with Clea, who's still around. She's sticking around in this series. So there has to be some rub here. And yes, by the end, there are some problems, mainly... And this doesn't reveal it all, but Doctor Strange and Clea have a difference of opinion of what to be done about anyone who had any even little part in his death. If you read Strange, Clea is a much harsher person. She's a much less forgiving person. Yeah. So there is some setup going forward, but I thought it was kind of cool for him to just kind of visit with everyone and here's where things are. Strange even narrates the issue. So well-told issue by Jed MacKay. Nothing earth-shattering, no big first appearance, no death.
Yeah.
So
the opposite.
Yeah. I think we'll see even more in issue number 2.
How new reader-friendly do you think it is if you hadn't read Strange?
Totally, because the first page has that sort of catch-up.
Yep.
And that's all you have to know for the most part. So here is the Coquello variant. And then we have the Caselli variant, the Marvel Icon variant they're doing. You see the logo in the top corner there. Then we also have this Scrosi variant, the Infinity Saga variants that they're doing. And lastly, the Alex Ross Villains Timeless variant with Dormammu. He has just heard a real good Yo Mama joke. He never heard that one.
He got burned.
He just learned what mamas were, too. He didn't know what they were either.
Poor guy. Okay, next up, we only have one Star Wars book this week. It's kind of different. I think the last 2 weeks were like a flood of them. This week,
2 in a row, too.
So this week, we just have one, but it is a great one. This is Star Wars Darth Vader, number 32. And I think from the storyline that's been going on with the Handmaidens, Sabe, and Darth Vader, and kind of the plot that kind of brings them all together with Jewel Tambor, the kind of villain for this one. This is probably the best issue in this story arc, I believe, and it kind of wraps up that story arc, but not without some fallout, some ramifications from it. So in this, it's kind of that final moment of the Sabe has been working with Vader. You get some great moments of Vader basically like putting out his hand to her and saying, join me. And then you get flashes of him doing the same thing to Padme, the same thing him doing to Luke, and how that, he's failed a couple of times, but the handmaidens come in and sweep her away. But does she really want to be taken away from this? And this is a great back and forth of, is she truly with Vader? Is she not? You may think it's going one way, then it goes another way. And the ending is pretty surprising. And I'll say if you read the Star Wars Revelations issue, it looks like what's going on with Sabe and Vader may be going pretty close to where you saw her putting on a helmet and kind of becoming a big general or something for the Empire. So I thought that was a great issue. I can't wait to see where it goes after this. But we've got some variants for this one as well. So I really like this one. This is the Larraz variant, Pepe Larraz. And just name dropping, one time he gave me a hug, and that was very nice of him. In Chicago. Then we also have the Sprouse Return of the Jedi 40th anniversary. Palpatine making his entrance. And that is that for Vader.
Okay, so I read Nightwing issue number 102. They wanted to make sure no one missed where Nightwing was on the shelf this week.
What book is that again?
Okay, so in this issue, Nightwing and the other Titans who have, kind of joined him in the book now, they go up against a shapeshifter who can look like any of them and seems to have superpowers on top of that. So, pretty formidable enemy. Of course, the Titans are really tough, though.
Yeah.
So you get to see how all that pans out, because can one character, even with powers and shape-shifting abilities, take on all the Titans? Read it and you'll see. Of course, the whole thing is that the Titans are trying to protect Blockbuster's daughter. This all has to do with a demon who has promised her soul. So that plot line gets moved along as well. And the Titans are going to concoct a plan that might take them into the infernal nether regions going forward. So I think that's really cool. When you pull together a team this powerful, you need to, have enough villains that they can go up against. And I think that's where it's headed. So another cool issue of Nightwing. And we got a few variants for this. Here is the Jamal Campbell. Always doing his thing. Campbell's always doing covers like these, but he always does his spin to make them just cool and fresh.
I can't imagine. He also had to have great penmanship to be like, how is a really fluid way I can write Nightwing?
Here is the Moore Campbell, our interior artist, showing the Titans just hanging out, being happy. They deserve some moments of happy.
Yeah.
And here is the 1 in 25 Georgievez variant that we're selling for $15.
And next up for me is She-Hulk number 11. So She-Hulk number 12, I believe, is the big 175th issue, I believe is supposed to be, that they're saying, there's going to be first appearance of a new villain, all that. I gotta say, it may actually be in this issue. So it's always funny when it's like they say one, but it's like slips in the one right before. So this was a really great issue of She-Hulk. She's been going through a lot lately where she had some of those villains in the previous issues and everything. But what she did establish pretty early on in the series was her fight club, where she was fighting Titania, and Titania is basically like, I'm just trying to,
blow off steam.
She's like, oh, we can do this in a more structured way. So this opens up with that again, but now they have some new members. The Thing, Ben Grimm, is now a member of this fight club because he just wants, of course, he wants to rename it the Clobbering Club. but he's all into his branding. And what's also funny, you mentioned Luke Cage earlier. Luke Cage and Danny Rand are just the peanut gallery watching all this. It's really fun. I really like to see like superheroes kind of just being friends and hanging out. Like, what do they do in their downtime? So this is all great. Her relationship with Jack of Hearts is a little weird right now. He got his powers back, so they can't touch. They're still trying to make it work, but it's not going well. And that's when Jen gets a call from Sue Storm and the Fantastic Four because some alarms have been tripped in the Baxter building, and they're going to try to figure out what happened as they some of the Fantastic Four on the ground floor, some are on the top. They've got different people stationed around, and she's just in charge of guarding like this one door. Well, of course, it's the one door that someone sneaks up to, and that is where we potentially meet our new villain for the series and the new Marvel villain in general, because they kind of make it known this. You do not get this villain's name, but you get the moment where She-Hulk basically says, "Who was that?" Like, this is somebody. I don't know who they are. It's a first appearance, basically. So we don't get their name in this, but we do get, you see their costume, you see everything, you get a lot of their personality. So I think this is a really great issue of She-Hulk, a lot of fun, and I can't wait for that next issue. Also got a great variant for this one. This is the Yagawa and Bonneville variant. I will, as hard as I try, I'll never have her abs.
Okay, so I read Blue Book issue number 2. Who needs superheroes when you got aliens? So this is by James Tynion and Michael Oeming. The whole point of Blue Book was they wanted to tell sort of stories of alien abduction that are true to the people who tell them.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, this is somebody who really believes this, and this is a story told. So this issue has 2 stories in it, like the other one, where the first one, it is about Betty and Barney Hill and a car trip they took very late at night where they ended up losing time. 2 hours is just sort of gone. They don't remember what happens. Their watches stop. It's told in a very creepy way. The art's very creepy. And it goes past the point you think the story will in a very satisfying way. Let's just say I got to a point and it put a smile on my face to know, oh, okay, this is going a direction I didn't see it going. The second backup story is about 2 green-blooded kids who are discovered in medieval England. And these are more like folklore tales. So another good story there. I like this. I think the right people who this calls to are going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
If you like X-Files stuff, or you're like me where I read like all the creepy Snopes articles way back in the day, watched Unsolved Mysteries. This is a good comic for that. Here is the Hickson variant. And then we have a 1 in 10 Rodriguez variant we are selling for $10.
Okay, and my next one is World's Finest number 13, or Batman Superman World's Finest number 13. Check out that cover. You've got Superman and Batman running, and at the bottom, Metamorpho. So this is definitely one of my favorite comic series currently coming out. I don't think there's been a bad issue of this comic, and this continues with this one. It is a great issue. It actually begins with Batman, Superman, Supergirl, Robin, all basically having to look at Jimmy Olsen and be like, okay, Jimmy, you actually solved that one. So this has a really fun Jimmy Olsen kind of through line where even Batman kind of has to admit that Jimmy Olsen discovered something that he didn't discover. Very fun. But that's just kind of the intro. You kind of stumble upon the end of a story. The main thing that's going on in here is a wealthy businessman has been found dead, and Batman.
Ra's al Ghul did it.
No, funny enough, it's very similar. But Batman and Robin are going to investigate, and Clark, as a reporter, is going to also try to uncover what was going on. When they find out that this was Metamorpho's girlfriend's father. If you go back, look at a lot of Metamorpho stories, this is kind of a through line of he hates this guy, but he works for him as a bodyguard so he can get close to his girlfriend. And it looks like the main suspect is Metamorpho. So they're having to find where did Metamorpho go and try to find clues. Is he guilty or innocent? But this has a very big twist at the end. You will not see coming. A last page wow moment that is really fun. Mark Waid, Dan Mora continuing to do fantastic work on this. If you haven't picked it up, pick up the single issues, pick up the trade. Just definitely try out Batman Superman, the world's finest. We also have this Christian Ward variant with Darkseid. Another Darkseid cover.
Superman versus Darkseid cover.
Yep.
It's not a wraparound. Okay, so I read Carnage issue number 11. So last issue, you had where Carnage's serial killer acolyte had sort of tried to backstab him, and it went so-so. And then he ran, and where he ended up is a place he wasn't expecting. He ended up in the house of Cletus Cassidy, and that's what this story's about. Like, where has Cletus been? What's he been up to? I'm not saying you find that out, but it's good to have him back in the story. So this issue, the serial killer, he tries to impress Cletus by telling him his serial killer cred. Well, Cletus uses some powers and takes him on a little journey of, let me show you what I do. And I have to say, this issue probably has more blood in it than all the other Marvel comics out this week. This is definitely they're pushing the boundaries.
Well, I don't know. I read
maturity.
Punisher this week. They may have to butt heads about that.
Interesting. Okay. So this is definitely a Cletus Cassidy focused issue. And it sort of begs the question, how is he still alive? He got killed in King in Black. Is he still alive? And also, does he now have his own set of powers that are beyond needing the Carnage symbiote? So pretty good issue of this right here. This is written by Alex Packnadel with art by Francesco Manna. And I got a few variants to show you. So this was being written by Rambeau. I don't know if Alex Packnadel is like taken over from here on out or not. But here is the Mistrazzo variant.
Very cool.
And then we have the Davila Planet of the Apes variant.
I tell you, every one of those apes are losing. They're going up against some tough characters. Can you tell in that they're leading up to this summer of symbiotes? Does it feel like there's a big story coming?
I could definitely see it, yes.
Yeah.
But it's not obvious.
Yeah.
But I can see it.
That'll be interesting when it gets here. Next up, I have a new one-shot. This is Pop's Chocklit Shop of Horrors. I love this cover, and I know did they intend this to look kind of like a little Muppet burger with two eyes? That's all I can see.
I'd say so for sure.
Is kind of one
demented.
of those singing Muppet foods. But if you can imagine, this is another entry in the what began with Afterlife with Archie, the kind of horror Archie-verse. This time, it's a little bit of an anthology, but not. I think there's only basically like 2 stories in it, but it does kind of have the bookend part where there is a couple who I figured out they don't have their wallet, so they're going to dine and dash at Pop's, and Pop's will not have that, and so he makes them clean. Which they find some very gross and disturbing things under some of the booths there. He also tells them stories about kind of creepy stuff that's happened. And that's where we get a story with like Kevin Keller and some very creepy customers that shop at Pop's one night while Kevin is working there. It's a lot of fun. It's that kind of Archie borderline of like this is really dark, but it's got that sense of humor, but it can have some moments that are like pretty gruesome, but very fun. And you've got this great cover. This is written by Amy Chase and Ryan Cady. And we also have the Francavilla variant. Another really fun horror variant.
Okay, my third and final of the anthology books that are out this week. It is Milestone's 30th anniversary special. Check out that Flash 123 homage they have.
It's great.
Better than just the cover, though. Look at that. It says featuring universal beings, a spectacular collision between the old Milestone and the new. They do this in this book. There are some good stories in here. If you're not reading Milestone Universe, they're good stories. If you are into the Milestone Universe, or rather the Dakota-verse is what they call it now, you'll like it even more. So this is a $9.99 book. There are 4 different stories in it. They are long stories, though. This is at least triple size, so it's almost like 4 comics in one.
Yeah.
And your first story is just what they promise. They have something happens where the characters of the current Milestone universe meet how they were back in 1993, and they have to work with their counterparts. Really cool, just really cool. The art styles change. This is done by the people, I mean, many of which were the Milestone founders. All the ones that are still in comics are involved in this issue. So that's the first story, which, I mean, is really noteworthy. The next story is called Static Beyond, which is Static in the future in the Batman Beyond universe, and it's done in the style of the cartoon.
That's awesome.
Yes, they do a really good job. The art of that one is quite amazing. And then there is a story in the future of Icon and Rocket, where Raquel, who's Rocket, is taking on the mantle of Icon. The last story it's sort of like a final story or an epilogue for Blood Syndicate, where their main villain, Holocaust, has been defeated, and what becomes of the Blood Syndicate after that. So, pretty cool. Don't feel like these creators are at all phoning it in. I feel like they phoned in their A game, if anything. And here we have the Gerald's variant with Static Shock.
Love that.
Yep.
Makes me want to go back and rewatch the show. Okay, next up I have a very unique new #1. This is Popscars. So this is written by Pat O'Malley and the art is by Santi Gillian. And the storyline of this is there's kind of a movie producer who does movies kind of like Sharknado, kind of B horror pictures. They're kind of schlocky. He's not a great person, and it is a revenge story where this character you see on the cover, I believe her name is Pinky, is hunting him down. But the twist is that is her father. It's not like a last page reveal. You know this going along.
In the solicitation.
Yeah, it's in the solicitation. This is definitely a mature book. It is very indie. The art style if you like the cover, it's very much like that. It definitely deals with like very seedy people and that kind of classic revenge story of this person will stop at nothing to get to their target. So if you like that kind of thing, kind of set in B movie Hollywood, then you will like Popscars. And this is the only cover I have for it. I believe it maybe had some incentives, but this is the A cover for it.
All right, so I read Grimm issue #9. I always really enjoy this book. It's by Stephanie Phillips with incredible art by Flaviano. Some of my favorite interior art on current books going on. So this is a much needed issue in my opinion, because our main character, Jess, the Grim Reaper, who the whole story kind of surrounds and, finds out she's like the daughter of death, and she is missing. Now we kind of know where she is as of last issue, but this issue is needed because it's her 2 friends, Eddie and Marcel. We get to follow them for an issue. And as cool as they are of characters and as great as their designs are, they need some fleshing out. And in particular, this is a Marcel issue. We get to see some of his past, which is really cool, but also very dark and a bit sad. So a really good Marcel story gets told here. They also meet somebody who claims to be this universe's devil, who is a very colorful, interesting character. And then there is more on Jess's mother, who has escaped her prison as of the previous issue. You get to see more stuff with her that's really good. As always, really, really great art. I will say with Grimm, if you haven't been reading it, you really can't jump in on this issue. You really have to kind of go back and read the previous stuff. Otherwise, it's not going to make sense. They're trying to tell a full story. They're not trying to do it episodically. So
yeah,
just wanted to mention that.
Every comic can be someone's first comic, but also, you know, they can read it and then like it and go back and try to kind of uncover the story.
There you go. Yeah. So here is the 1 in 10 Florentino variant for $15.
I just sat and reread the entire first volume of Grimm the other day, and it didn't take me long to read, but it's such a just refreshing new kind of idea. The art's great.
The art is just every time
highly recommended.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, I've got Gargoyles issue 4. And this is a really good issue because I feel like this starts to get into some of the stuff that with this series we started really heavy into there's going to be a new gargoyle born and there's a lot of people vying for it. This one is really good because it focuses more on Goliath, and the kind of nature of this story takes place quite a bit later than the seasons of the show, because in this, the gap between the gargoyles is widening as they are kind of living their own lives. They have families now. They have other jobs that they do in the city, kind of their own projects that they're working on. And as Goliath kind of tries to get the team back together as like a family, they're moving apart. But that is when him and Broadway decide to go out on patrol. It's really fun. Even Goliath has changed. His relationships have changed. And I like that this does feel like a natural progression of the show and the story beyond what we ever got with the show. The other thing that's going on is some people are doing crimes and kidnappings in the city wearing gargoyle masks and kind of trying to get the gargoyles in trouble for this. And of course, Goliath finds himself in the wrong place at the wrong time, and the helicopter spotlights are going to go on him. So this is a really good issue of Gargoyles. Getting back to kind of that main core of the characters in the story. Got this great David Nakayama A cover. We also have this Purio doing some amazing covers. And then we have this 1 in 10 Modern Icon variant by Amanda Connor that we're selling to our customers for $10.
Okay, so I read Flash issue number 795. This is the 6th part of the 1 Minute War, so it is nearing the finale. The bottom of it says casualties. So are there casualties? Well, the Flash team sure believes it if you read the previous issues. You will have to read this issue to see how true that is. But what I can tell you about this one is the team needs to take out an antenna they have discovered. It's more like an antenna building that is allowing the Fraction and all their machinery to operate within the Speed Force. That is just sort of the crux of what they need to do.
Sounds like a target they're going to have to take out.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing I'll say is, what exactly is Planet Flash? There's sort of a surprise ending at the end of this where you will find out. But I'm waiting for the next issue for more on that. So the other thing I wanted to say is, unfortunately, Jeremy Adams is nearing the end of his run on Flash. We've enjoyed it a lot. It's one of the series at our shop a lot of people read week after week. It never really links in with big events until they finally did 1 Minute War, their own event. He is leaving after issue 800. It's being taken over by Cy Spurrier, who I believe is going to take it in more of like a cosmic horror direction.
Yeah.
So at least it's going to be a whole different thing, but I will really miss Adams on it. I've really enjoyed this Flash run.
But he is going to the new Green Lantern series. So I'm looking forward to, as much as I hate him leaving Flash, one, we haven't had a Green Lantern series in a while, and also it's a great writer coming on to it.
There you go. So yeah, that's very true. So here is the Nakayama variant.
That is one shiny, rubbery costume.
And here is the D'Alfonso variant.
Very cool. Okay, next up, I've got, as I mentioned earlier, Punisher number 10. This is, I mean, I did not read Carnage, but I would have said this is the most violent and over the top issue of the week. Probably one of the most dark and mature books that Marvel's publishing, which I think is fitting for Punisher, but definitely not for the squeamish, because Punisher now has a sword. And what he does with that is pretty horrendous. It is a very dark issue, but if you are interested in what it's leading to, where you don't get away in the Marvel universe with being the kind of person Punisher has become in this, I'd say he's even kind of darker and worse than ever without attracting the attention of some Avengers. And that is what we're leading to, and that's where this issue shows you who's going to be facing off against Punisher in the next issue, which I can't wait to see. Especially Captain America seems to be leading this group, and with his sense of like right and justice up against Punisher, I think this is going to be kind of a battle of fists and minds and wits. Very interested in that, but Punisher continues to be a dark but very interesting book. We have this Kyle Hotz variant. That is that for Punisher.
Okay, the last two I want to talk about is there is a facsimile out this week of Avengers issue number 9, which is the first appearance of Wonder Man. So if you ever wanted to read that in its entirety in facsimile form, that is out this week. And then there is also this Deceased War of the Undead Gods variant I wanted to show off. This is the Oliver variant, which of course is an homage to Purple Rain. And I know a lot of people love the Purple Rain homages. We got Harley in the background there. Batman filling in for Prince. So I just wanted to make sure everyone knew that this really cool variant was out this week.
And you mentioning that because I've got DC's War of the Undead Gods right here, number 7 of 8. And yeah, this is the penultimate issue of not just this miniseries, but of all of Dceased.
Wow.
Which is, you want to see some major stuff happening
Never
in
thought
this
that would
world.
go on that long.
I know. So this one is really cool, especially Tom Taylor did it in his Injustice series too, to see some characters taking on the roles of other characters in a very natural way. Like you see Black Canary has been a Green Lantern in this for a while.
For some time.
If you haven't read this, when you find out who is the Spectre and who has become a Yellow Lantern are two of my favorite kind of twists and turns of this. But yeah, only one issue left. And the other variant for that is the Acetate Kale New variant with Mary Marvel.
Okay, so that's 24 of the comics out this week. Let us tell you about the other ones. There's also Joe Fixit number 3 is out this week.
Marauders number 12.
Monica Rambeau Photon number 4.
Storm and the Brotherhood of Mutants number 2.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles issue number 138.
We have Tiger Division number 5.
The 3rd issue of Wasp is out this week.
X-Treme X-Men number 4.
Black Adam issue number 9.
Catwoman number 53. That has a really nice David Nakayama cover.
The final issue of GCPD, The Blue Wall, issue number 6 is out this week.
Got Harley Quinn, the animated series Legion of Bats number 6 also.
The 3rd issue of Swamp Thing Green Hell. Thank goodness they're coming out on a regular schedule now.
We have Wonder Woman number 797.
Mighty Morphin Power Rangers 106.
Monstrous number 44.
Spawn Scorched issue 16.
Undiscovered Country number 24.
And Vanish is finally back with issue number 5.
It's been a while for Vanish.
Yeah, we don't have time to read all these, so we read the ones we think you most want to hear about, and then we tell you about those. So thank you for tuning in. We will be back with comics from the future. In the meantime, if you want to, head over to our website at infinityflux.net, where you can buy these comics while they're in stock, and you can even sign up and subscribe to comics while you're there. You get 10% off to anything that you pre-order. That is infinityflux.net. Again, thank you for joining us, and we will be back on Friday with Comics from the Future. So see you then.